What's up, Dodger fans? Hope everyone's feeling well out there. You should be, because your Los Angeles Dodgers are World Series bound for the first time in 4 long years. Now, 4 years doesn't seem like a long time if you're most fan bases, but for me and Jake, 4 years feels like an eternity, I feel like, since the last time we've been in a World Series. So I got the champagne ready. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hit that like and subscribe button. Let me pass it off to my co-host, Jake Reiner, who's been on this ride for me since 2020 is when me and Jake started doing this podcast, but he's been here all along in 2024 with me. It's been an up and down season, but we're riding the highs right now.
We are riding the highs and we've ridden the lows, Kevin. It does feel like it's been a long time, even though in the grand scheme it hasn't. But these past 4 seasons have been a lot of agony, a lot of first round exits, a lot of disappointment where the Dodgers matchup wise were better than the team that they were eliminated by and just could not get past them. And then this season, they really showed that they are the best team in baseball. For once, the best team in baseball is making it to the World Series. I feel like it's been a minute since that's happened. It's typically been whichever team was the hottest in October, and it looked like the Mets were kind of on a collision course. But once the Dodgers got past the Padres, that was the biggest heavy lift that they had to do in the playoffs so far, because short season, the Padres are a comparable team, arguably the second best team in the National League, and maybe the playoffs overall. You might go 1, 2, 3 with Dodgers, Yankees, Padres, or Dodgers, Padres, Yankees. I mean, it was a tough matchup to get through. And then actually this series, even though the Dodgers wins were pretty much blowouts, there was a lot of stress in this series, especially the games that they lost, but also the high wire act of tonight's game with the bullpen. There were no clean innings by this bullpen until we got to Blake Trinan. So every single inning was a high stress inning, and the Dodgers relievers, it was sort of a bend don't break kind of defense like in football, because they were able to strand pretty much every runner and keep the Dodgers in this game. And then the offense just took care of business late.
The pitching was no doubt about it ugly tonight, and we'll get into more of that, but I'm kind of on the opposite sense than you. This was one of the most stress-free playoff series I feel like I've ever witnessed in my entire life, for a couple reasons. Dodgers and Padres felt like the true NLCS to me. I felt like whoever was going to win that series, more likely than not, was going to make the World Series, especially with the Philadelphia Phillies being eliminated. And this was the 3rd consecutive year where the Dodgers had a bye, and finally, 3rd time's the charm. They break that bye time off curse, kind of had great at-bats for the most part in that Padres series. So they finally figured out how to get right for that series. But then a key thing that I mentioned is before the NLCS started, the Dodgers had less time off than the Mets did entering that series. And I feel like that was so essential for our batters. We had the momentum, we had the timing, and they were locked in from game 1. And yeah, the pitching had a couple off nights, and I think that's expected in a best of 7 series. I wasn't expecting a clean sweep, and we talked about a couple nights ago. Taking 2 out of 3 in New York is really all you can ask for. You come back to Los Angeles, you get 2 chances to clinch it on your home turf, and that's exactly what they did tonight. They really worked Sean Manaea, and from there they just had really all the momentum. So cheers to that.
Cheers to that. And also, I also was saying that the time off for the Mets was going to potentially be an issue for them. But honestly, I mean, the Dodgers are the better team. And if the Mets had won this series somehow, it would have been devastating. Because you look at up and down this Dodgers team, even though their starting pitching was paled in comparison to the Padres starting pitching, it kind of was a wash in this series because the Mets didn't really have great starting pitching. We know the Mets have a terrible bullpen outside of Edwin Diaz. The Dodgers, the superior bullpen. The Mets have a good offense. They've got Lindor. They've got Alonso. Vientos gave us a lot of trouble. But again, you stack up against this Dodgers offense, there's no comparison. This Dodgers offense is explosive, and they're 3-0 without Freddie Freeman in the lineup. That's how deep this lineup is.
Yeah, that's actually a good talking point that you just brought up, and it's a testament to this Dodgers depth and strength of the lineup. You just hit the nail on the head. They won this series without Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman started a couple games basically, and he wasn't himself. And despite losing an all-star, an MVP, and a future Hall of Famer, they posted some of the most highest run totals I think any team has ever posted in an NLCS. 46, 48. I can't remember the top of my head, but they posted a shit ton of runs and they annihilated this Mets pitching staff. And we talked about it a couple times. Nobody starting for the New York Mets was anyone we feel like we needed to back down from. It was a bunch of threes, a couple fours, and that was really who was taking the ball for the New York Mets. Sean Manaea is a solid pitcher, but he's nowhere near all-star caliber. And they talked about it before the game, and Dave Roberts said, getting a second look at him, they felt confident they were going to be able to get to him. I know you talked about that as well.
Yeah.
Kodai Senga pitched one game this season in the regular season. He was just awful the entire NLCS against the Dodgers. And then you got guys like Luis Severino and Jose Quintana. They're just mediocre at best. So there was really no excuse for this Dodgers team to not put a bunch of runs up on the board.
It's crazy with two teams with the two biggest payrolls in baseball. To have such a thin starting rotation for both squads is kind of insane. But what did I say? After game 5, we're looking ahead to game 6. We're looking at Sean Manaea. He kind of handled us in game 2. My whole thing was run up his pitch count. See if you can scratch a few runs off of him and get him out of the ball game early and get to that terrible Mets bullpen. Well, they got 4 runs off of Manaea? They more than scratched a few off of them. He gave up 5 earned runs in this game. So huge job by the offense. Huge job. Not to mention the bullpen again. You know, we talked about how they've been kind of the not necessarily the unsung hero. It's one of the strengths of this Dodgers team. We said they're going to go as far as their offense and their bullpen takes them. And both of those things have been in sync this postseason. Kopech, Kasparius, Banda, Brazier, Phillips, Hudson, Trinan. They gave up 5 runs total, which isn't great, but that is why you have the offense. That's why you pay $700 million for Shohei Otani. And that's why you go out and you get a Tommy Edman. This offense was firing on all cylinders. And so even though they gave up 5 runs, they ended up scoring 10 runs. So yeah. It looked like a blowout when it wasn't.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I said it a couple of times, like, I just felt better riding this Dodgers bullpen in the postseason than handing the ball off to some of these starters like Landon Knack and even Walker Buehler at times. I've just felt more confident that this Dodgers bullpen was going to get the job done. And in this NLCS overall, the couple bullpen games didn't really go our way, but tonight the offense truly carried, and we talked about it while the game was going. We just couldn't get a clean inning from any of these pitchers to save our lives. Fortunately, NLCS MVP Tommy Edman was more than enough to lead this team to victory, and then the wheels just fell off the Mets pitching later in the game. Mookie Betts with the double, and Teoscar got on base, and Smith hit a home run. It was a pretty sight.
Yeah, I want to talk about the offense too in a minute, and we can get into Tommy Edman and all of that. But I just want to go back to that first inning, right? Because you had, let's take a look at this. The Kopech inning was just brutal. I mean, to start the game with a walk, and then you got 2 outs because Nimmo grounded out, and then Vientos struck out. So you had 2 outs, and then that bullshit little blooper from Pete Alonso that, I don't know. I mean, maybe Chris Taylor should have made that play. It was a tough play. He was on the run, moving and throwing on the run, and he just threw it away from Max Muncy, unable to catch that ball. But that was just horrible. And then the next batter walks, and you got 2 runners on. And the fact that Kopech, even though he had a terrible outing, was able to strand those runners in that first inning was huge. And then what a response in the bottom of the inning, the Dodgers to put up 2 runs off the bat of who else? Tommy Edman, NLCS MVP. What a huge response after giving up the 0-0 tie there in the first.
There's a reason I've been calling him Tommy Ed him since he put on a Dodgers uniform. And challenge me if you want, listeners. Find me someone that did better as a bat post-deadline acquisition of all the guys that were acquired around the trade deadline. And I don't think you're going to find a single hitter that's had a bigger impact than Tommy Edman. Not only with his bat, obviously he won the NLCS MVP, had an OPS over 1,000, hit over 400, 11 hits, 11 RBIs, which that 11 RBIs, did you know, tied Corey Seager for the most RBIs in a championship series by a Dodgers player. So they finally replaced Corey Seager, I guess you could say. But on top of that, when Miguel Rojas went down, you had Tommy Edman to slide over at the shortstop position. You then you didn't have to worry about him playing at center field anymore, which he also did a brilliant job at. That was able to get Kike Hernandez and Andy Pages in the Dodgers lineup. But Tommy Edman did it all offensively and defensively. He's been a clean fielder up until this point and a clutch hitter, something we had a lot of emphasis on in the regular season. Tommy Edman provided that clutch factor that the Dodgers needed.
Absolutely. So far this postseason, Tommy Edman is hitting .341 with an .810 OPS, a home run, and 12 RBIs, 3 stolen bases. Just what more could you ask for from him? Didn't play a game all season long because of an injury with the Cardinals.
True.
The Dodgers picked him up, and you didn't really know what you were going to get, but they believed in him. If he was healthy, he was going to be able to contribute. Then he bursts on the scene, starts mashing, and is able to not only be the NLCS MVP, but due to the injury to Miguel Rojas, he slides over, versatile as all hell, does a terrific job at shortstop. I mean, he played a pretty flawless shortstop.
Yep.
And that allowed Kike Hernandez to get in the game and be in the lineup every single day. God, the Dodgers keep finding players like this, and it's so much fun to watch because it's not just the superstars that you get to root for. You get to root for the guys that are scratching and clawing for a job and are able to provide in the most dire moments for this team.
Tommy Edman was just the type of Los Angeles Dodgers player that this team needed. They had a lot of superstars. Some of them were divas at time where it feels like they all drove their Mercedes and Porsches, and maybe that's what Tommy Edman drives. But he's scrappy, just like you said. He plays like a blue-collar baseball player where he's not afraid to get his hands dirty. He'll lay down a bunt if he needs to. He manufactures runs. He hits more for contact as opposed to trying to swing for the fences every time. And you need guys like that in your Dodgers lineup, guys that you can count on to make contact, get on base when needed. And so I just have loved the acquisition of Tommy Edman. He has just been awesome for the Dodgers. And correct me if I'm wrong, didn't he start the playoffs batting 9th for the team, and he worked his way up to hit cleanup?
Yeah, and a huge home run tonight because this game was so close up until that point. And I want to get the inning correct because he at one point had all of the Dodgers RBIs at 4 when the Dodgers went up 4-1. In the bottom of the third, the Dodgers were kind of teetering on disaster. The Mets kept clogging up the bases, and the Dodgers relievers were able to get out of it. On the heels of Anthony Banda striking out Jeff McNeil with the bases fucking loaded. What a G. And then all of a sudden, here come the Dodgers. Teoscar Hernandez single, Tommy Edman homer. We go up 4-1. And at that point, I thought we're not losing this game.
Same. And super chat shout out to Jeremy Bird. Every time we get a super chat, I will pour a new drink and start drinking. So thank you, Jeremy, for your super chat. Appreciate you watching the streams and tuning in to the Incline Dodgers podcast. Question from Gavin DeLuhash. We'll probably get into this maybe more later on as we're currently celebrating and living in the present. But he's talking about who would you start game 1 of the World Series. His preference is Yamamoto, Flaherty, and then Buehler. And with the amount of time off, because they don't play till Friday. Sounds right to me.
I like it, but I almost kind of want to start Yamamoto in the Bronx. Remember what he did in the middle of the season when he started there? I mean, he dominated that Yankees lineup. We know he can thrive in that hostile environment. They may not do that to him because he's technically a rookie. And
if there's a game 5, they might.
Yeah, I mean, they might, absolutely. But lining it up, honestly, for me, because Walker Buehler's kind of earned back the trust of Dodgers fans, Dave Roberts, and all of that, I would give the ball to Buehler game 1. I don't think they'll do
insane.
it.
No way.
Why is that insane?
As great as Buehler has been, there's been a number of times where he's had the bases loaded. He's been in a lot of jams. Sometimes he didn't get out of it. Other times he did. You got to go with the guys like Yamamoto who have just been lights out besides that first game. And Flaherty, let's not forget, he was bad in this most recent outing, but he gave the Dodgers 7 innings and set the tone in the NLCS.
He did.
Those guys have earned it.
I think you could make an argument for each one of them because each one of them has had a bad postseason moment so far, as well as having good postseason moments. So there is that kind of toss-up factor where there really is no clear cut. But if I'm a betting man, I would go with Flaherty. I would go with the experience. If they don't go Buehler, I would save Yamamoto either for game 2 or 3.
We got to put the Yamamoto as a rookie narrative to rest now. Guy is pitching like a veteran. He's been filthy. He's been to a World Series in Japan. The guy has a knack for the big moment. And once he figured everything out, he's been lights out. I'm going Yamamoto game 1. That means if the Dodgers have a game 5, you go to Yamamoto game 5, Flaherty game 6. And if there is a game 7, then this is what you want. You give the ball to Walker Buehler or you go bullpen game.
I just hope that they don't go starter game 1, whether it's Yamamoto, Flaherty, or Buehler, and then bullpen game 2. I didn't like that plan when
I don't think they will. They have the rest on their side.
Okay. I'm with you, but I did not like the bullpen game 2. I don't like that. I'd like to see what our starters can do.
I think you'll get your wish, and who knows? Maybe we'll get a guy or 2 back. Don't know what the update is with Vesia, but hopefully he's back for the World Series. I don't know where we stand with Brewstar Gratterall. Hopefully he could come back for the World Series, but I don't think there's any starters like Glasnow that we should expect back for the World Series, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Miguel Rojas injured adductor for MVP. Harsh from Gavin. Harsh. Harmony Davis saying Tommy Edman is so underrated and asking if that's a baby. That is a baby in the background. She was born just in time to see the Dodgers make the World Series. So good timing on little baby's part. Name for now we'll keep private. Nicholas Dugan, shout out to Kevin and someone else. He is hinting at himself for being on the money with Tommy Edman. Some of us were high on Tommy Edman and loved the move right out of the gate, and we said he'd be an X factor in the postseason, and so far that's coming to fruition. Los Dodgers World Series champs. We got Tommy Edman and Michael Kopech for Miguel Vargas. Thank you, Andrew Friedman. Okay, so let's talk more about this series. So, yeah, the pitching was kind of ugly. You talked about Kopech a little shaky out of the gates. I think the Dodgers kind of got lucky with Kasparius. He gave up a couple meatballs, but fortunately for his sake, they didn't end up becoming big pieces of damage. But it was almost like them doing the same game plan with Landon Knack, and they got lucky this time because Kasparius gave up a couple meatballs that easily could have been pummeled. But overall, this Dodgers bullpen, everyone got into a little bit of a pickle, but once we got that comfortable lead, we didn't really need to stress anymore. After that Will Smith home run, I felt like this game was ours. And even though Ryan Brazier and even Evan Phillips looked a little rough out there, it didn't matter ultimately. And Blake Treinen getting 6 outs was huge.
Yeah, Blake Treinen. And I'm happy that they left Treinen out there for the second inning despite the big deficit, because the last thing that you want is to send someone out there like Knack and he has a complete meltdown and you can't bring in anybody else to save the day. And the only other person to really save the day would be like Honeywell or Enriquez, So I'm glad that they were able to go to Treinen for a second inning, even though it was a huge lead, and he ended up giving up a run anyway.
Shout out to Brent Honeywell, though. Do you see his comments after the game? He said he basically barked at everyone and said, "I'm going to go out there and die so that our arms are fresh for Game 6." That's a team player right there. So shout out to Brent Honeywell. You've earned your keep. I would love to have him back.
I mean, not to go rah, Dave Roberts on everyone here, but it really does take every single player on the roster in the organization to get this done. Everybody has a role. You mentioned Ben Kasparius. He got into some trouble, but it didn't lead to anything. And he was able to give you something out of the bullpen in an NLCS Game 6. I didn't even know what his name was for the majority of the season until I look up and I said, "Who's this? Is that Michael Grove? He's wearing number 78. Oh no, wait, Michael Grove's number 29 now. Who is this guy? Who's Ben Kasparius?" But that guy became a guy. Honeywell became a guy. It does take everybody. The Dodgers can have a payroll of, $1 billion or whatever, but it does take the full team to get you to where you need to be.
Yeah, Kasparius is digging deep down the farm system because I had never heard of him until he got called up. And thank you, Michael Grove. Whether it was a legitimate injury or the Dodgers just realized this guy sucks, thank God he sucked in that one appearance and they pulled him off the roster and plugged in Kasparius instead, because Kasparius has been 20 times better the pitcher that Michael Grove has been for us for the last 3+ years. So good urgency on the Dodgers' part. So the next thing I do want to talk about, we're going to go back in time to December. What was it? December 8th, December 11th, whatever the exact day was, we got hit by the news that Shohei Otani was coming to the Los Angeles Dodgers. And now here we are a little over 10 months later, and Shohei Otani in year 1 in a Los Angeles Dodgers uniform, his first ever postseason opportunity, gets to go to the World Series. So a couple of things on that. How fucking great is it for a guy like Otani to finally be a part of a competent organization? And he can say himself, through his play and his at-bats, he helped this team get to the World Series. So it's not like Shohei Otani was carried by a couple measly rounds. He's done his part. He stepped up, and this is part of his vision. He came to the Dodgers because he said he was going to bring a World Series. He wanted to win multiple World Series, and now he gets his first crack at it in 2024 with the Dodgers.
To go from one of the worst organizations in all of baseball to the best organization in all of baseball, to where Shohei Otani didn't even come close, not even close to going to the playoffs with the Angels in the 6 seasons he was there with Mike Trout, to go to another organization like the Dodgers and go immediately to the World Series in year 1, just tells you everything that you need to know about the Angels and about the Dodgers. Because the Dodgers, even though they're there every single year, right? They have the shot. They win the division every year. It has been a struggle as of late over the last 4 years to get back to the Fall Classic, let alone get through the first round of the playoffs. You add a guy like Shohei Otani, where if it wasn't for Shohei Otani, I don't know if we win that Padres series, because remember in game 1, we were down 3-0. And if it wasn't for him hitting that 3-run homer right there, you never know what would happen, right? The Dodgers could get demoralized in that game, and then they lose that game. Then they lose game 2. I mean, and then you start going down a slippery slope. But he is the reason, well, not the reason, but he is, I would say, the biggest reason why the Dodgers are going back to the World Series, because of Shohei Otani.
If the Dodgers didn't land Shohei Otani in the offseason, There's a chance they would have signed some other players. So what I'm about to say might be irrelevant. But if they didn't sign Shohei Otani, this team probably doesn't make the postseason altogether because he was a 9-WAR player. He was one of the main reasons Yoshinobu Yamamoto wanted to come to the Los Angeles Dodgers. And who knows, maybe Teoscar Hernandez, seeing that Otani and Yamamoto were coming to the Dodgers, said he was good with taking a 1-year deal. And maybe if we didn't get Otani, Teoscar says, I'll go play elsewhere because he feels like he has a better chance to win. So it was kind of like a domino effect. Getting Otani was able to get these other guys. And honestly, if you just kind of watch the Kevin Biggios, the Nick Ahmed's play, the piss poor performance by Chris Taylor throughout the regular season,
Ahmed Rosario,
the list goes on with some of the bad performers we had to witness. James Outman was a struggle bus this season.
Oh, Vargas.
Jason Hayward, Vargas. We might not even be in the playoffs altogether. This might have been the year that the Dodgers finally miss out. But because they signed Otani, we're in the World Series.
Okay, a little bit of breaking news here on the incline. Friend of the show, Blake Harris, just tweeted out, when speaking on Sportsnet LA, Andrew Friedman said there's a chance both Brusdar Graterol and Alex Vesia can return for the World Series.
That would be fantastic. So if both Vesia and Graterol return,
that would be so great.
You probably can take off.
So great.
You take off Henriquez for sure because he hasn't been that great.
And Knack. Keep Honeywell.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. All right. So World Series bound. Thank you guys for watching. Drop your questions. Drop your comments. We'll get to everything you guys have to say. Hit that like button. If you're new to the show, hit that subscribe button. I'll pour a new glass every time we get super chats or good questions. Artie Moreno punching air right now, according to Nando 390. Very true. Dennis Gonzalez, the seeds for the postseason for Otani were planted in the World Baseball Classic. I do kind of feel like that was a big turning point for Otani and the Dodgers' momentum to start building, was that World Baseball Classic. Otani got a taste of what it's like to be part of a good team when Japan won the whole thing. And so I kind of agree with that comment. Anna Pineda saying he's also better at home. Flaherty, I'd rather have him start when we're at home. That's a good point. Jack Flaherty has dominated at Dodger Stadium. He did get destroyed at Citi Field. So I kind of am right there with Anna. Flaherty's an LA guy. He is stoked to be a Los Angeles Dodger. He has to pitch one of those 2 home games and have the crowd behind him. It will be absolutely electric if a hometown kid like Jack Flaherty can take home a World Series before maybe leaving in free agency. But I mean, what an ad Jack Flaherty's been. This is going down as one of the best trade deadlines the Dodgers have ever had in my lifetime.
God, and they needed it so badly too. We were ringing the alarm bell at the trade deadline. Please get us a starter. And remember, Kevin, Jack Flaherty was late at the deadline. It was like the witching hour, and we were getting so depressed because we were thinking that we weren't going to get a starting pitcher, and then boom, right at the last minute, here comes Jack Flaherty.
He's supposed to be a Yankee.
I know. And I mean, you know, did the Tigers know they were going to turn their season around and make it to the playoffs? I bet they're not too happy about giving up on Jack Flaherty because they could have used an extra starter.
Right. Yeah. And this is where you got to make the Yankees regret pulling the plug on that Flaherty trade. So I'm sure Jack Flaherty knows. He's in the know of what goes on. He wants to bounce back from that piss poor performance. He was absolutely fuming in his post-game comments. He was irate. So, you know, he wants to redeem himself. And I have no doubt he will. So I'm excited to see what Jack Flaherty does. That's going to be an awesome storyline. One of many in this Dodgers-Yankees World Series. Something I think we've both been begging for many years now is to see a Dodgers-Yankees World Series.
I know matchup-wise, you probably wanted to face the Guardians, but as a young boy growing up a Dodgers fan, obviously not being alive in 1981 when the Dodgers last played the Yankees, which the Dodgers won, by the way, 43 years ago. This is something that I've always wanted to see. And for our entire lifetime, Kevin, it was like the Yankees were going to the World Series seemingly every year. And then they stopped going to the World Series, which is kind of crazy with that organization. The fact that they haven't been back to the Fall Classic since 2009 when they won it is kind of crazy to me.
I know it's been a long time. I remember watching that World Series because obviously it was against the Phillies, and I was rooting against the Phillies because I was a bitter fan and upset that we lost.
I was too. I was like, please just go home, Philadelphia. Although they won the year before, so I couldn't stand them winning back-to-back titles after eliminating us both years.
Same. I don't remember what else I was going to say about Jack Flaherty, but yes, I'm excited to see him get the ball and just the deadline itself, like between Michael Kopech, Edman, Flaherty, just huge impact guys. And this is something I've said before many times. Like, I am a firm believer that World Series can be won based off what you do at the trade deadline. I feel like that is exactly how the Rangers won the World Series last season, because they traded for Jordan Montgomery and bolstered their bullpen. And then even Arizona had some big ads, and that helped them reach the pennant. And then, 2017, even though they cheated, Verlander, no doubt about it, the Astros don't make the World Series if they don't get Justin Verlander. So you can win or lose World Series based off what you do at the deadline. And I feel like there was finally some urgency from Andrew Friedman to make these big moves and get the guys they needed. And it's paying huge dividends right now. So we got J-Rex Vid saying if they continue to hit like they did against the Mets, then no doubt we will win the World Series.
Yes, that's what we've been saying. The Dodgers offense is going to be their meal ticket to title number 8. So we know that if they continue to hit like this, it is going to be, well, I'm not going to say smooth sailing, but it is going to be very difficult for the Yankees to beat the Dodgers 4 times if their offense is cooking like it is right now.
MPAC 8_24. That's probably a nod to Kobe Bryant, I'm guessing. You think Tony Gonsolin gets any consideration? I don't think so at this point. I don't think they want to rush him back, and they haven't needed him in the last 2 rounds. So why would we add Tony Gonsolin at this point when we already talked about being so high on Honeywell and I guess even Kasparius at this point?
Right. And I think that if you get Gratterall and Vesia back, you kind of don't really have a spot for Gonsolin because you're already, who else are you going to take off the roster?
Yes. All right. So what else do you want to recap in this NLCS? What are some things that we should talk about that I'm just blanking on right now?
Well, I think it's worth talking about Dave Roberts, because Dave Roberts really saved his job this postseason. He was staring at another first-round exit, 3 in a row. The Dodgers were down 2-1 in the division series. And then he managed the bullpen game of his life. Now, granted, the relievers had to come through, in which they did. But the fact that Dave Roberts took this team that didn't have any starting pitching and had starters be good and starters be terrible, but the bullpen being kind of the saving grace, the fact that this was the most managing I think Dave Roberts has ever had to do bullpen wise that I've ever seen. And he pulled every right lever. There were some levers where he kind of got away with not, making a move, maybe going to get Jack Flaherty when he was struggling out there. Even tonight with Ben Kasparius getting into trouble, having nobody warming up behind him. Honeywell too in game 5, where the Dodgers were within 4 runs and kind of let him, die out there. I mean, there were some moves where you could have gone the other way on, and there were some other moves that really worked out perfectly. Going back to Yamamoto in game 5 of the NLDS was an amazing decision. And I know that was a collective decision with the front office and everybody, but to have that confidence in Yamamoto and then for Yamamoto to deliver, that is vintage Dave Roberts right there.
Yeah.
And you just can't say enough about the job that he's done to get this team to the World Series. I mean, he really has.
Dave Roberts has showed a lot of growth as a Dodgers manager, and I'll explain why after this quick break. From Underdog Fantasy. So World Series is coming up, obviously. Let's get some entries in there. Let's take some money home. Today was a fun day if you had the hire on Teoscar Hernandez. I personally felt like he was going to come through. So hopefully I have some time to get some pregame shows in there, and we'll throw out some pick'em entries of what you guys need to put out there. Underdog is super easy to play, and it's even easier to get started. Go to their easy-to-use mobile app or go to underdogfantasy.com. Sign up with the promo code INCLINE, and Underdog will give you a mystery special pick to use on your first pick'em entry, plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code INCLINE to claim your new customer special of a mystery player pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 or older, unless you're in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 or older, and 19 or older in Colorado for some games, 21 and older, Massachusetts and Arizona. Present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpagambling.org. Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. And New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY. So the comments I was going to say about why Dave Roberts has shown a lot of growth now as the Dodgers manager. I don't know what the scope of the question was, but he mentioned how he's learned from past decisions, and he doesn't ever want to do a thing where he goes with Brandon Morrow all seven games in a World Series with any Dodgers reliever ever again. And so where the growth comes in is you just can tell that Dave Roberts has a lot better feel now of when to rest relievers, when it's not necessary to pitch them in a playoff game. Trust some of your other guys. Keep the guys that you need in these hinge games like today fresh so that you can really ride them. And he's just been successful this entire postseason. He hasn't been past Dave Roberts where we see Evan Phillips or Blake Trinan going out there in stupid, like down 6 runs or whatever. He'll just give it to Honeywell. He'll give it to Knack. He'll give it to Kasparius. Give it to the shitty relievers. Let them mop it up and then turn the page and come fresh with your guys to win a must-win game, and it's worked out for the Dodgers up until this point. And I think that's a big reason why they were able to get to the World Series, win this game today. I know a lot of people were kind of pissed off why the Dodgers didn't go to their high leverage guys in that most recent loss to the Mets at Citi Field when Flaherty got shelled. I mean, honestly, some people, I think it's hindsight. To me, it just felt like when Flaherty got shelled, like you just have to eat it. You can't try to win that game. You know that you're going back to Los Angeles. You got 2 more chances. Sucks to lose a playoff game, but sometimes you just got to bite the bullet. And I think what they did was actually the right move and set the table fresh for what they did today.
I mean, it was a punt. There's no getting around it. It was a punt of a game because it wasn't like all of a sudden you look up and Jack Flaherty's given up 8 runs. There were times where you could have gone and got him and stopped the bleeding and allowed the offense to come back because the Dodgers scored 6 runs. And if you kept the deficit at 5-1, then they win that game. So I get the criticism. It is fair. But if you do that, then you got to come back home in game 7 and take care of business. And this was a take care of business win for the Dodgers. Before the game, Dave Roberts said he was going to be aggressive. I called for that. I mean, obviously he's not listening to me, but I was very much, I had strong opinions about that. I wanted them to act as if this was an elimination game for the Dodgers as well, because as Dave Roberts knows, he's been in enough game 7s, managed enough game 7s to know if you don't have to be in that type of situation, then you really want to avoid it as best you can. So the fact that the Dodgers went all in tonight and sent out every one of their horses to secure this win, that's what you want to see as a fan. That is what you want from your manager, from your organization, to just say, you know what, enough is enough. Let's put the Mets out of their misery. They're not on our level. We are in a class above theirs. And so let's take care of business at home and let's go back to the goddamn World Series.
We're just so much more collective now. Game 3, when we were down 2-1 to the Padres, it felt like the world was ending. We were so fucking pissed. And now here
Yes.
we are. Shit has really turned the corner. The guys got their act back. The guys got their act together. And here we are. What's up, Jim NFL 7? Congrats. Hello, Eric and BC and the Incline. BC saying join the Discord. I just dropped the link if you want to join our Discord. I'm still drinking champagne here. This is glass number 3. Let's freaking go. But wow, here we are, World Series bound, freaking pumped. Just getting to your guys' questions and comments. So feel free to drop them as we continue the stream. We're celebrating tonight. The Dodgers are in the World Series. It's an awesome feeling. The Flacco saying the Padres were the only team that really made him nervous. Most complete team in the playoffs. I know anything can happen, but the Dodgers got to this point. Champagne. I mean, the Mets, they get their respect. They beat the Phillies. They earned their keep, but they were just no match for the Dodgers. And this was a team we had to beat. We've been granted gift opponents before and couldn't get the job done, like the Diamondbacks last season. But I mean, the Mets in an NLCS, that's about as easy as a matchup that you can realistically hope for in an NLCS. And I'm just so glad the Dodgers took care of business. Grimace is fucking dead. We murdered him. Pull out the eulogies. The in memoriam is going to be at the Academy Awards. Grimace is fucking dead. The Dodgers killed that guy.
Also, to all the San Diego Padres fans out there, I keep seeing them on Twitter like crying about the fact that the Dodgers now have a cakewalk to the World Series and that we missed our chance and it should have been us and we were, up 2-1 and we were 1 inning away, yada yada, all this stuff. I would love it if the Dodgers could win 2 World Series in the time that this sort of rebirth of the Padres has occurred, because in that time when they got when Fernando Tatis came up and when they got Machado and Bogarts and they had Soto for a while and Ha-Seong Kim and all those guys that they've acquired and all of just the arrogance from a fan base that has never won a World Series. The fact that they haven't been able to even get to the World Series in that time should shut them up for the rest of time until they actually do that. I don't understand how they have a leg to stand on. It's always fascinated me. So take that, San Diego. Take that. You still cannot beat us. We are still far superior to you. And enjoy this from the couch as we go and we defeat the Yankees for our 8th World Series title. Eat it.
The Padres fans are so bitter online, acting like this was their year. But you guys fucking blew it when you couldn't score for 24 consecutive innings.
Yeah, so shoved it up their ass.
So go home, enjoy your cheap-ass margaritas at the La Quinta Inn. You guys are done. You're old news. You're not going to have the same team back next season. You're going to lose some guys in free agency because you can't afford them anymore because you lost all your money and you're on a bunch of loans. So it's over for you guys, all you Padres fans out there. And the next thing I wanted to mention, so is this a war now between the Incline Dodgers and John Boy Media? Are we about to fire some nukes and start something with these bozos? They've been shitting on the Dodgers all season long. They put out a bunch of propaganda trying to spin it like Otani is some illegal gambler out there. They piss on the Dodgers when they get the chance. This is the war we need. It's time to engage and put those guys at John Boy Media in their place. We started with resident Ryan Cohen, who moved to New York because just like everyone else in San Diego, nobody stays there. So even Ryan Cohen, who's a Padres fan, left San Diego to move to New York and be part of John Boy. So we took out one of their guys. Now we're about to take out the rest of them bitches.
Yeah, I mean it'll all depend on how our boys play and if they're able to defeat the Yankees, because if the Yankees beat us, then we don't really have a leg to stand on. So I'm hoping that the Dodgers bring it. I'm hoping for a good World Series, but I think the Dodgers stack up pretty good against the Yankees. I would take the Dodgers over anybody at this point with the way that they're playing. And I think that the Yankees, even though they definitely have a lineup that rivals ours, I think our lineup is better. I think our bullpen is better. The only thing that I think that they may have over us is maybe starting pitching. I don't know. Garrett Cole. I'm not too afraid of Clark Schmidt. Who else do they have?
Carlos Rodon.
Rodon. He's pretty decent. So yeah, maybe they have the edge starting pitching wise, but we don't really have, it's not really that big of a drop off when you throw Flaherty and Yamamoto out there and then you got Buehler.
Yeah, the Yankees don't have the greatest pitching staff like they have in years past. Garrett Cole's a stud, but even he's kind of regressed a little bit. The bullpen has been very susceptible. Clay Holmes has been getting beaten up and pretty rocky, so they need to take advantage of him. They got that motherfucker Tim Hill, who used to pitch on the Padres. He's now in the Yankees bullpen, so I want to pummel his ass. I'm pretty sure all the relievers that were chumps on the Dodgers, they're all gone except Tommy Kahnle, who he was decent, but he's there. But like Victor Gonzalez, I think they kicked him to the curb. They traded Ferguson to the Astros. Bickford, I think, either got DFA'd or is in the minors. So all the former Dodgers relievers that they wanted to collect aren't really there anymore. Their pitching is not that deep. In fact, it might be almost on par with what the Mets have. They got Garrett Cole. That's the one leg up. But after that, no one really in that Yankees rotation moves me that much.
I mean, they have a very similar build to what the Dodgers have, which is their offense is going to either carry them or lose them the series, because you stack up the offenses and you get guys like Gleyber Torres and Soto and Judge, and Stanton is on fire right now. Volpe, Rizzo and Verdugo don't really scare me that much. Austin Wells is terrible.
You damn know that Verdugo is going to be the one guy that somehow gets on base a shit ton.
He's going to be juiced up like no one's business because the Dodgers traded him away. He was a part of that Mookie Betts trade. He's probably got a chip on his shoulder. He's going to want to take it to us. I have a really strong feeling about that. But aside from the big guys, Soto, Judge, and Stanton, maybe Gleyber Torres, I don't really have a lot of fear out of the rest of that lineup.
I hope that bitch face Trent Grisham, they don't even have faith in him, because he's another guy that somehow.
Oh yes, I forgot about Jazz Chisholm too. He can hit. He can hit, and he
can hit, but he's been bad in the playoffs.
He has been bad in the playoffs. You're right. So they do have a comparable lineup to ours. I think our lineup is better.
All right, so we'll get to your guys' final questions and comments. Want to make sure you guys get them in there. Hit that like button if you haven't yet. This is a freaking awesome night. Dodgers are back in the World Series. Thank God. Gerald B. Carrillo. Remember, Freddie is recovering from his ankle sprain. He is eager to contribute and play with his dogs. No doubt about it. He's got 5 days to recover. They're going to get him back in the lineup. I'm excited to see what Freddie Freeman does in the World Series. So that'll be a huge get.
I just want to say something quickly. What's not lost on me is the fact that the Dodgers were able to win 3 games without Freddie Freeman, including Game 6, which means they're able to get him off his feet for a long period of time. Hopefully that ankle gets a little bit better. It heals a little bit more by Friday for Game 1. I have all the confidence in the world that he's going to be in the lineup for Game 1.
It's kind of almost like in 2017 when the Dodgers had to win the NLCS without Corey Seager, who was dealing with, I think, some type of elbow injury. So they left him off the roster, and then he came back in time for the World Series.
I totally forgot about that.
So yeah, it's very similar with Freeman. So hopefully the 5 days or the 4 days off. Well, it's 5 or 6 for him, because he hasn't played tonight. So hopefully that gives him a pretty healthy ankle. We want him back in the lineup. We need all the bats we can get. I mean, shout out to Chris Taylor. He actually had a very productive game tonight. I have been shitting on him all season long, but he did good tonight. So good for Chris Taylor. He stole a base, and yeah, he proved his worth. I wouldn't change a thing for all the hitters on this World Series roster. I'm leaving Rojas off. I'm riding with the same 13 guys. I would not change a thing.
I wouldn't either, but if Rojas is healthy, I just have a bad feeling that they're going to put him on the roster. And if that's the case, keep him on the bench.
Yeah, keep him on the bench, because what was our record without him? So we were down 1-2. I I don't remember if Rojas screwed us in game 3. So yeah, we went 2-0 against the Padres, and then we went 4-2. So we're now 6-2 without Rojas in the lineup, which is the complete opposite of the regular season narrative. Didn't we go on like some crazy winning streak when he was in the lineup?
Yes, we did. And here's the thing about Miguel Rojas, because he did die for our sins, right? Because at the beginning of the season, it was supposed to be Gavin Lux, and then Lux couldn't play the position. And so then they had to move Mookie there. And then when Mookie got hurt, Rojas slid in and became the starting shortstop and actually had a pretty decent season this year offensively. So he's getting a lot of hate because he almost blew the series for us against San Diego. And that's fine, but he was a contributor to this team this year. And I'm glad that they had him because they needed someone to basically eat innings at shortstop because they didn't have someone there the entire year.
Yeah. No, he definitely proved his worth during the regular season. So if the Dodgers take care of business and win these next 4 games, he can probably wear that World Series ring. No doubt about it. Can't take that away from him. And even tonight, he didn't play in the series. He still gave a speech because he's one of the clubhouse leaders. Don't know why Miguel Rojas is like our leader in 2024 for the Dodgers, but that's the way it goes. That's just the way it goes. Otani can't speak English very well, so I get why he can't give the speech. Mookie Betts, for whatever reason, wants to take a backseat as one of the team leads, and then Freddie Freeman has become Mr. Humble Pie, so you don't really see him giving speeches either. It's pretty much like Kike Hernandez and Miguel Rojas, and for the pitchers, Kershaw, some of the guys that really haven't contributed a whole lot or aren't the superstars anymore. Somehow they're the vocal leaders. And that's not a knock on Kershaw because he's the best player overall on this team, accolades-wise, but he can't pitch because he's injured. And credit to him for willing to be in the clubhouse and still be a mentor for these guys. And so
yeah, he's like an additional coach on the team.
Exactly. So if the Dodgers can take care of business, yeah, Kershaw wasn't there to be on the field, but if they get him that ring, he can wear it proudly. First of all, he should have multiple rings anyways because he got screwed from the Astros and whatnot. But like, yeah, his contributions off the field have been dividends. I know guys like Flaherty, I think even this year have pointed him out as just someone being there and a great presence to have. So Eric Flores, that's your question about Miguel Rojas. Tyrone Israel, World Series baby. Tyrone, hit that like button because I have not seen your name before. BJ Santana, as a Mets fan, I'm disappointed. Congratulations. The Dodgers earn it. Have fun in the World Series. Thank you so much, BJ. Love to see classy Mets fans tuning into the stream. So thank you. I think you guys are going to have a great offseason. I would not be shocked if Juan Soto and Corbin Burns are wearing Mets uniforms next season. So wear your head high, I should say. You guys have a bright future, I think, under Steve Cohen and David Stearns. Moose 1032. I can't believe we made it with the pitching injuries. Just awesome. Yeah, I mean, no Glasnow, no Stone, no Ryan, no Kershaw. It's pretty much remarkable that the Dodgers were able to scrap it together and basically have gotten to the World Series with 3 starting pitchers.
It's kind of insane. Just shows you this is what we wanted to see from our team, is just this fight. We've lacked that the last few seasons. It just feels like they showed up and tried to sleepwalk their way through the playoffs, and it showed because they kind of got dog walked the past couple seasons. So it was really nice to see the Dodgers facing elimination against the Padres, get their backup off the floor and off the wall and into the middle of the fight and fought back, won that series. And then it's not like they coast. They didn't coast in this series against the Mets because it did go 6 games, but they took care of business. I had a hard time believing that this Mets organization was going to beat the Dodgers 4 times. It just could not see that happening.
Right. No. That would have been one of the hugest shockers ever because the Mets were sellers at the deadline. Wonder if they regret now not having Verlander and Scherzer in that rotation right now, because they could have probably used them in this series. And yeah, it would have been an embarrassment to lose to the Mets. Like, it's no knock against the Mets, but the Dodgers are just superior pretty much in every category possible. From the lineup to the pitching, to the bullpen, to the defense, to the manager, to the coaching staff. It would have been a shock if we lost to the Mets. So we'll do a couple rapid fire questions. Then we'll get to our final thoughts and anything else Jake and I want to cover real quick, as this is our World Series clinching stream. Javier T, would you all keep Pages in the lineup? Well, I said it again. I said it before the NLCS started. You got to have Pages in the lineup against any lefty starter.
Yep.
He's earned it.
Or pinch hitting late too.
Yes. The Flacco, love your guys' streams. You guys keep it real and show true emotions in comments. Thank you so much, The Flacco. We love you too. Thank you for tuning in. What is going on? Okay. Jake, pass it over to you. Talk about anything else you want to talk about real quick. Then I got one final thing I want to talk about, and then we'll just close out the show.
Okay, Kevin. Well, this is an exciting night, and I am so looking forward to seeing the Dodgers and the Yankees play the World Series. It's a childhood dream of mine to see this matchup. The Dodgers have the team to win the title. They've just got to go and take it, and they've got to take out the big bad Yankees. And it's just such a sweet. It would be such a sweet victory. I think the only other team that I would enjoy maybe as much or a little bit more beating in the World Series would be the Astros. But historically, beating the Yankees is one of the sweetest things you can do. The Dodgers have done it in World Series past. They won in 1981, the last time these two teams faced each other in the World Series. So I'm really excited for Friday. I was trying to see if it would be possible to go to that game. And I just sent you a tweet, Kevin, but from our sponsor, TickPick, the cheapest ticket to go to World Series Game 1 is $1,000. So that's where the bidding starts. Of course, no checkout, no fees at checkout with TickPick. So that is the price you're going to get, but that is a hefty price to pay. I might have to find somewhere else to watch it, but I am so excited. I want to get our parade. I'm going to be there when we get it, because this is a childhood dream of mine. We kind of got robbed in 2020. We didn't get the parade then. And so I really think we just got to get it done. Just take care of business and we'll be World Series champions.
Harmony says Kevin, Verlander, and Scherzer were traded last year. I'm well aware. Maybe I didn't specify or misspoke, but I know that the Mets sold those guys last season, and I'm talking about where they've come from this season. But yes, thank you for correcting me if I misspoke there. So Jake, I haven't given you time to think about this, so you might be stumped for a minute, but wanted to ask you, and I'll do the same thing, because we finally are making a deep run finally again in the playoffs. So we have more podcast content episodes, and we're not talking about first round exits and getting swept. That really sucked. Only being knocked out October 6th or whatever bullshit that was. Wanted to ask you, Jake, all the games so far, what has been your moment or game of the postseason so far? Moment, game, compilation, whatever comes to mind. Something that you'll look back on and be like, that was the turning point. That was one of my favorite moments. Anything along those lines. And the chat, you can answer that as well. Drop your comments below. This is a thinking thing, so I want to hear everyone's thoughts, but I think that's a very good question for everyone to talk about. So favorite moments so far, everyone.
The one moment that just popped in my brain, because it felt like the Dodgers were here and that they weren't messing around, was when Shohei Otani hit that 3-run bomb in Game 1 of the National League Division Series. Okay. The Dodgers are down 3-0 at that point, and here's Shohei in his first playoff game of his career, and he does a Shohei thing, which is hit a bomb when you need it to tie the game. And at that point, it felt like the Dodgers weren't looking back. Now, they were down 2-1 in that series, so it was a bit touch and go. But I just felt at that moment that Shohei Otani not only arrived, but he's finally in a competent organization, playing for the best team in baseball, he's not going to let us get eliminated again by the Padres. And that's how I felt in that moment. And it was only in that one moment. And it was one of the most exciting moments, I think, of this postseason so far.
Yeah, that's a really good one. That's probably top 3 for me. For me, it's probably game 4 of the NLDS against the Padres when they went the bullpen game, when they went to Dylan Cease on the San Diego side on 3 days rest. I feel like they were really rolling the dice there because he had never pitched on 3 days rest before, and he had pitched pretty poorly in game 1.
Gave up 5 runs in game 1.
Exactly. So they go back to him, and when Mookie Betts hits that home run off him in the first inning, and then Shohei Otani and Betts drive in 2 more runs in the second inning and essentially knock him out of the game, I felt like that was the hugest momentum swing we've seen so far in this entire postseason. And from there on, we pretty much haven't looked back. The bullpen pitched like an 8-0 shutout, and then we took care of business in game 5, and the bats have just been rolling ever since. So I want to say, because Mike Shildt kind of rolled the dice and went with Dylan Cease in probably a situation that they shouldn't have gone with, that gave the Dodgers a huge momentum boost, confidence and approach boost as well, knowing that they can get to the Padres ace, one of the best pitchers in baseball. And they really just haven't backed down as a collective offensively ever since. And so that, for me, that's the moment of the postseason so far, is just that entire game, but especially those first 2 innings, just destroying Dylan Cease.
Yeah. And then the NLCS, every Dodgers win was kind of a blowout. I mean, they flashed on the screen tonight when the Dodgers took the lead in the bottom of the first of game 6. That was the first lead change that had occurred in the entire postseason. Every game, whichever team scored first won the game wire to wire, and there were no lead changes after that. So each game was pretty much decided early on, and the Dodgers kind of cruised in the wins that they had, but just the offense overall was just absolutely amazing. You felt like the Dodgers were always going to be in the game, no matter how many runs they were down.
Totally. Well, that's all I got. Jake, if there's anything else you got, say it now before I cut you out.
That's pretty much it, Kev. This is a great night.
All right. So I think we'll be back before the World Series itself starts. Maybe we'll get a guest or two, start to preview the World Series. I don't remember if I said it on the podcast, but we were supposed to get Frank Fleming, aka what is he up? What
Frank
else
the
is
Tank.
He Frank the Tank. He did agree to come on the podcast, and that was going to happen. But unfortunately for me, or maybe not unfortunately, but there was some bad timing where I had to go to the hospital for the baby, and it came all premature. So we didn't get him on. I could still try to reach out, but he's probably really pissed off right now. Maybe I'll go to his ex after the show and see what he's saying. But
he probably is pissed off, but also Frank the Tank has been a little reflective of this Mets team. He's been a little sentimental, thinking about the fact that he didn't even expect them to be in this position. And so he's grateful for the season that they've had. So you might actually get him in a good moment.
All right. Well, maybe I'll reach out if we feel like it's appropriate, but we'll try to find some Yankees people. Maybe I know a guy or two. We'll engage with John Boy and see if they want to start a war. There's a lot of Yankees content creators out there. We'll make it happen. But the Dodgers are back in the World Series. We're pumped. Here we go. October Fall Classic. Everyone's been wishing for this for many years now. Dodgers, Yankees, a World Series, the first time in 43 years. Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, Shohei Otani, Mookie Betts. This is going to be the most star-studded World Series maybe ever in our lifetimes. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is the most watched World Series since like The Sopranos was on cable TV 20 years ago or whatever. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for all tuning in all season long to the Incline Dodgers podcast. Hit that like button on your way out. Hit the subscribe button if you're on the audio feed or the YouTube channel. And yeah, we got more podcast content to come because your Los Angeles Dodgers are alive. Let's freaking go.